Hi, garden rebels. It is a perfect day to plant a basket. So I want to take you along step by step on this process and how we plant, how we choose plants, and that might be helpful for when you plant your hanging basket. Let's get started. Convert a winter basket to a spring summer? Yes, let me show you how. We're going to take this well-worn winter basket. It had just dusty Miller in there and it served its purpose. It's going to be a tad bit too bland for that colorful spring and summer season, and we're just going to tear that out. The moss cloth on here we put in last year, so we are going to keep that in there nicely. No need to change that out. We can get another year's run out of this. And our issue is the difficulty on this particular one is that this is a morning sun side and an afternoon shade. In morning sun, I technically consider that full sun. So you can put full sun annuals, except these baskets are really close to the house and up high. So oftentimes that morning sun takes a bit to get there, and it doesn't get true full sun till late summer. So I might consider on this one a tad bit more of the shade plants. And on the shade plants, I want shady, sun-tolerant plants. So some shade plants that can take a lot more sun. Once we remove those plants that we don't want, we're oftentimes left with that remaining soil. And here's the question is, can we reuse that soil on our next planting? And this is the way I judge whether to reuse that soil, is can I get my fingers comfortably into that rest of that soil? And you can see it's really packed hard on here. So this is full of roots. I could grind it up possibly or take it out and throw it out. And if I can get my fingers in, then I can just add some root power, add in some fresh soil, and away we go. But here, I'm going to throw out the rest of it. So, with a lot of hemming and hawing, going one way and then another, I think I found a combination that I'm fairly comfortable with and happy. Let me show you. Here was my thought process going into these two cone-shaped baskets. First, I picked a plant that I particularly liked. It could have been anything. I picked this begonia. This is a Begonia boliviensis. This is a Bolivian begonia, and this one's particularly called Mistral Orange. So it has these this nice strong orange bloom through the summer, and it gets much larger and lots of blooms. So I was happy with this particular choice. And the nice thing about this begonia is that as this morning sun gets more intense in the summertime, this can handle much more sun. So I was happy with that choice. But now, what do I do to accent, to bring it out? And I chose coleus. Very simple coleus. So I like the lush leaves on it. Orange and red are on that scheme on the color wheel fairly together. This one's called Kingwood's Torch. Love that foliage. And I know as the summer progresses, both of these are going to get much larger. The nice thing on the coleus is that I know I can pinch these back and keep them much more compact and let this begonia really grow. So the other thing on this particular hanging basket is that notice that I didn't make it well rounded all the way around. This was against a wall, and our view of the basket is really going to be from 3 sides and not that 4th side. So I can have lots more room to play with. Perhaps I could put 2 begonias in the center as well. But I'm just going to start with 1 because I know these are pretty aggressive. So now, nothing trailing on a cone-shaped basket, I am going to use this Lysimachia. This one's called Sunburst. And the reason why I chose this is it is just a straight green trailer. It has these yellow blooms in the summertime, but I'm not very particular about the blooms. I want to have something trail on that cone that I think can stick close to that cone and keep that cone shape. So what I like to do is really train it tight to the cone and keep it tight. Hopefully I can get this Lysimachia that oftentimes, let me show you a trick on that plant. Let me show you here. So you notice on this particular, the nice thing about that, so here is the trailing plant, right? It has rooted into another part of the container. So perhaps I can try rooting this into the side of the basket. So this is one of the reasons why I chose this. And that is it. We're going to keep it pretty simple. I experimented with a type of fern. I could have added in a little more fine foliage, although I think this is fine enough. I could have done a contrasting yellow color with the yellows and reds, and oranges would have been nice as well. But I'm going to keep this pretty simple. And sun, a morning sun, afternoon shade. Just for folks who can see it on the color wheel, here's are the reds and oranges. And again, I could have added in some yellows to get this whole scheme. I am just keeping it within this area. We do have the yellow blooms of the Lysimachia later on, no big deal, but this should work according to our plan. So once I have the plants chosen, there could be some room that I can add some more in. I am just going to start planting, see what happens. Even in the best pulling, oftentimes we need more plants or we don't use as many. So let's get started and see what happens. little side note, this is grown in our earth pots, so you don't have to take that wrap off. See how many roots just grow around this. Really a fun way to plant. Okay, so once we've planted that, here are some last minute thoughts about the 2 containers that I just planted. If it's on each side of the doorway, is to mirror the plants so that you get a nice finished look. Oftentimes, if you were to plant them exactly the same and they weren't symmetrical, you would have, say, a red begonia here and a red begonia here, and you wanted them actually to be on the exact same side. So just make sure you mirror your plants. Second thing is that this is a combination I've never tried before. So what I'm interested in is that what is going to happen? Are these coleus just going to take over and then create this big upper motion type planting, and then these Lismachias just come trailing straight? I don't know, but I think I know enough about coleus that I can keep plucking those and keep it much smaller. And I do know about these begonias getting larger. My question was, should I have planted 2 begonias, and could I have introduced that red, Mistral red, but also a Mistral orange, so I'd get that red-orange mix with the red foliage as well. That could have been an improvement, and that might be something I try for next year if I see how this might look. So just some things to be wary of after you finish planting. There's always what ifs, what we could have done, and make a mental note, because in an area on your house or hanging basket, I usually give myself at least 5 years before figuring out, hey, these are the plants that do well in this area. Remember, the planting bars are open. Get the Garden Corner app to reserve a table if you want. The tables are always open 7 days a week to do your planting here. Remember, the soil and the root power are free. Guys, that's the tips and tricks for this week. Always live your passion. Planting, so exciting.